I'm currently live. Let me check out Twitter because I know I'm live on Twitter. And let me see, can I hear stuff? Let me check out Twitter because I know I'm live on Twitter. And let me see, can I hear
Can y'all
stuff?
talk for a second?
You test.
Let me check out. And let me see, can I hear
Can y'all
stuff?
talk for a second?
Did you hear that? You test.
Let me check out. We're good. I knew what I did earlier worked.
Did you hear that?
Okay, and so I may need to zoom in. We're good here. I knew what I did earlier worked.
Okay. Did you hear that?
Okay, and so I may need to know because now it's replaying in my here. Okay, we are live everywhere. So quite a few people saying hi already. Okay, we're in a good spot, y'all. All right, we got people watching online. We got people watching here. So I think because of this setup, we may need somebody else to do the screen share for the code. I don't know yet. I can try, but I don't know if this is going to cause an issue. I will try. All right, let me try and do this. Well, I guess in the meantime, we got people already chatting here. Let's see. I feel like our code was already reviewed on Thursday night. Is that what you feel? Oh, I see. Yeah. Faye's very generous talk. Not for nothing though, that was a very good talk. Let me see. If I switch it like this and I go like this, perhaps this works. Okay. Well, I think if I'm not mistaken, let me move y'all off the screen for a second and see how does that sound? Like, does that sound actually work or no? Because if so, then otherwise I'm going to be very limited on my screen space. All right. How does that sound? Like, does that sound actually work or no? Because if so, then otherwise I'm going to be very limited on my screen space. If you can, how does that sound? Talk now and let me see how that actually work or no? Because if so, then otherwise I'm going to be very limited on my screen space. If you can, how does that sound? Talk now and let me see how that actually work or no?
Invalid argument.
Because if so, then otherwise I'm going to be very limited on my screen space. If you can, how does that sound? Talk now and let me see how that actually work.
You're not hearing that?
Invalid argument.
Because if so, then otherwise I'm going to be very limited on my screen space. If you can, how does that sound? Talk now and let me see how that actually work.
You're not hearing that?
Invalid argument.
Because if so, then on my screen space. If you can, how does that sound? Talk now and let me see how that actually work.
You're not hearing that?
Invalid
No.
argument.
Because if so, then well, there's an audio loop back because I was listening. But I think that means that everything is working. So this is a very interesting way to do this. But I now have a way that I can share my screen and everybody could hear. Audio loop is, it's looped back because I was trying to hear them and they were talking at the same time. So it created like an additional loop back, but didn't know. And I didn't realize y'all were catching the same loop back. I thought it was just me. Regardless, as of right now, even though it is not on my main screen, everyone should be able to hear the Discord and everything that they're sharing. If you're joining us online, this has now become our new weekly thing. So essentially what we're doing here, it's called the Code Review. And for those that don't know, we just recently did a cohort. And the cohort, we had 13 teams do projects. So our goal now is at the very least, at least one project a week every Saturday, we will be reviewing it. But that means as soon as that is pretty much done with, we will be opening the floor for pretty much anybody to kind of contribute a project if they want it reviewed. And our goal with this isn't to demean, put folks down, make people feel discouraged. Really, the goal is you can't get better as a developer until people start pointing out the things that you've done incorrectly and how you can implement it in a better way. So our goal with this, hopefully we can bring like experts every week like this. I think that would be phenomenal. And that's kind of the goal that I'm aiming for right now. But we will be essentially reviewing projects. And so today we have a project that we're reviewing that we actually reviewed at the meetup, if you saw it at the meetup. And I'll kind of bring this up here. I believe it was Pragmatic. Oh, that was the local host. Whoops. I know there's a URL already for it, but let me see if I can get this running. And if I get it running, and full stack web developer looking for. Okay. Where is the main? Let me run this server and run the other server. Matter of fact, Josh, I see you here. Do you want to come up and do, or Rox, you want to come up and do a live demo of your project so everybody could see what it is that you did? There we go. I invited him to speak, but I don't see him no more. Huh? He requested, and I can't. Why can't it says invite sent? And where did Dennis go? I don't even know what happened to him.
I'm here, Danny. You didn't lose me.
Yeah, something happened to Dennis. We requested, like for Josh. Oh, hold on, let me try and do it again. Josh, try and request again. There we go. It says invite sent. I don't know why.
Why I am
There we
here. I'm just taking a small break, actually getting my kids ready for their prom night. So I'll be back in
Nice.
about 10 minutes.
Oh, we got Mr. Long in the building.
Yo.
Oh,
Anything
snap.
working? Oh,
What's going on?
can you hear me? Is it like
We can hear you.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay. The long nightmare's over. Hi everybody. How's things?
What's going on? Well, I guess we just brought up the other Josh, but I guess before we even do that, Dennis just took a moment to step back down for a second. But do y'all want to do some like quick intro so that way people online and everyone else kind of know who you are, what you're about?
Microphone. Output device. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Is it better or worse than it was a minute ago?
It sounds the same to me.
Okay. Well, that's a. Take that.
I mean, it
Okay,
sounds,
now what do I-
which I think means that probably in the first time you had the right mic.
that almost never happens. It's just
All right, let's go through the. Well, I see the chat is already going about the prom. Yes. So I guess do y'all want to do intros so that way people know who you are? You want to start Sergey and then we'll go to Josh?
Sure, I can go ahead and get started. My name is Sergey, and I am currently software engineer lead in First United Bank. I've worked with Java for more than 6-7 years now, and I work in the mission critical applications for healthcare where we actually saved people's lives. And today I work with banking where we streamline deposit account opening by reducing the time that it takes to open the account. In the free time, I play with Java and Kotlin. I'm really passionate about those two, and I'm really excited about today's cohort. Passing baton to Josh.
Hi, my name is Josh. I am technically not very good at anything, so it took me 5 weeks to figure out how to even join this chat. I've been working in Java professionally since 2002, and I've been working, studying it, using it, trying to understand it since the, 98, something like that. And it's not going well. It's not going well. We are now nearly 30 years into this journey, and I still don't understand what I'm doing. So thanks for having me, you insensitive Claude.
So to give you some idea, I know I gave both of y'all a little bit of context, which very gratefully you came to kind of give back to the community a little bit, so we really appreciate it. But we do a cohort here, and the cohort, essentially the idea is we have junior developers on a team for the course of 6 weeks building a project together that's actually worth talking about. And it's not like a basic e-commerce app, but it's something that's really solving a problem. That was the big focus. Like, what is a problem that we can solve? And so Josh over here is from one of the teams, and his team lead and team members are also in the audience kind of checking us out. But their team solved a problem for like a local plumbing company. And essentially the idea was the cohorts are given a theme of 4 potential projects. Their project, it was to solve a problem for a service trade industry where we integrate AI in one area, but also the other aspects is it's always a pain for when it comes towards taking reservations, when a plumber doesn't fully know what it is that they're walking into. So maybe they don't have the right parts on the truck. Maybe there's a shortage of parts. Maybe the inventory is mismatched. Their solution is essentially to kind of solve all of that, making sure that if they don't have the right inventory on stock, the plumber knows about it before arriving to the site, so that way they can pick up the right parts that they need for the repairs. It's a more succinct way to kind of handle the reservation and booking process for the customers that are registering to log those issues in and things of that nature. That was what they set out to do within 6 weeks. So Josh, do you want to do like a quick demo of everything that y'all built so that we can start reviewing it?
Yeah, you want me to share screen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Nice to meet you, by the way.
Nice to meet you. You got a great name, by the way.
Compliments to the chef, right? I got the good stuff. Thanks, man.
Taylor, you're in my screen. All right, so here we go. This is our homepage right here. So as soon as the user gets on, they could go ahead and see this book appointment. Do I need to zoom in? No, this is our homepage right here. So no.
Looks good to me.
So you have one or two options here. You could manually select a service if you see what your issue is, or you could use our AI description classifier to type something up. So say your toilet is clogged or something like that. It'll give you estimated time, the prediction for what it may be. So auto selected clogs. And then here you have your time slots, and they're all in on the back end 30-minute increments, but it's blocked out based on the estimated completion time and the technician's availability. And this goes off of multiple technicians. So you can go ahead and select the time. I'll just put in my stuff. As you see, the prompt is automatically added there too. And that goes ahead and creates the appointment. And then you can go on to the admin side. So this is what the admin sees. You have the list of all appointments that have been created with their respective statuses. You could view more details. Here's the one we just created. Any of the client comments, kind of. Let me show you a different one. I just had one. I'm looking for out of stock items. Water heater. This one should have one. There we go. So it'll show you the stock needed, and if you have that quantity, you can go ahead and add it. It'll place an order. This will be generated in the email that gets sent to both the admin and the technician. And also, if it's accepted, the client will get an email. And in that email too, the technician will see if they need to pick up what's out of stock, and then when they stock it, they can come back in here and show that they added that stock. And then another feature is the looking at. This will auto sync all appointments that are accepted to the admin's Google Calendar. So
Wow.
I think what I just picked, yeah. So you could either view the list there or see the list on your Google Calendar, but that's pretty much everything.
That's a lot. Good for you. A lot.
It was a team effort.
Fantastic. So now that we have a little bit of context, maybe we can start digging into some of this code and seeing what it looks like. I'm going to move this Discord over now, and let me see if I can get this editor to act right and hopefully start pulling things up. I'm guessing since we have Sergey and Josh both here, do we want to start on the Java side first before the JavaScript?
Can I say one thing before we start?
No,
reviewing code?
absolutely not. Yes. Yes.
My big respect to you guys by doing this work, because all the developers, when we put our code out there, we are uneasy about this action. We're doing this work, and now we're revealing this to the public for everyone to critique. And I would like to say, like, big respect to your courage for being able to do this, and big shout out to you all who participate in the cohort. This is truly amazing. Like, my biggest respect to you guys.
Yeah, seconded.
All right, let me go through this. Okay, I'm hoping this works. Pretty sure it will. Okay, let me share screen. Oh, no. Let me go back. Okay, I think this works. And let me zoom in a bit. Hopefully this is readable for everybody. So let me preface all of this with something that I was kind of saying in the beginning. For Team Faye and Nishith, obviously we're reviewing your code today. None of this is meant in a way to necessarily demean someone. It's not to kind of put anybody down. But truth be told, you are not your code. It's an extension of what you can build with the knowledge that you have now. So our goal is to kind of just help push open ideas, give you better practices, and hopefully at the end of the day, get you in a position where you really feel like you can elevate your code. This is what it's all about. So I don't think anything that's said here will ever be with the intention of demeaning or making sure you have nightmares and things like that, right? So, and then of course, after the fact, if you still have questions, more than happy to jump on there. But hopefully other people that are in here, you walk away with knowing a lot more about how to approach these problems in the future. Now that I put out the disclaimer, go ahead.
I think I might learn a few things today as well. So thanks for sharing whatever you teach today.
Agreed.
Yeah, and whatever you guys going to receive any feedback, you don't have to incorporate all of them at once and think that this is so many overwhelming things. Just feel free whatever you want to take, and then maybe take more things tomorrow. Just second what Danny said. It's just to push your knowledge, and I will happy to learn a few things as well.
And Richard, I saved that comment forever. Given all the disclaimers, I expect a thunderstorm of criticism coming. Nah, I don't think so. I think everybody will be good. Okay, so, Sergey, you've already had a chance to look at this. Let's start with the Java side first. With you being our guest, and actually with you being our, what are you, now the resident team lead? You can maybe decide, was there any specific area that you wanted to touch on that you saw or wanted to talk about?
Yeah, there are some smaller areas. It's like how granular we can get. But I would like to start with the more architectural approach and look at the folder structure.
Let me collapse everything.
And what you did is, again, excellent. Honestly, making it work, that's already your leaps and bounds ahead of everyone. But one suggestion that I would like to give is, again, on the structure. When you build the code, you organize it based on the technical constraints. For example, you have things like controllers and constants and entities and exceptions and things like that, which in reality, if you go there out in the world, this is 98% of all the Java code bases. But if you literally would like to leapfrog and go to more of a senior engineer, I would like to suggest looking into domain-driven design and organizing your packages and folders based on domain. And for example, in your content, it may be technician domain, or maybe booking domain, and maybe customer domain. That gives you a few benefits. Once you start moving, and it's more like for enterprise world, it's much easier to find a common language with a business based on the domain rather than on technical constraints. If you need to adjust some logic, it's going to be in those specific layers. And most importantly, let's say when your service grows and you need to pull out let's say, technician or booking appointment system, because you get so many requests, you can literally take this whole thing and put copy paste in a new microservice, and boom, now you have another microservice. Compare if you separate by the technical concerns, it might not be as easy to pull things out later on. Again, what you did is what you're going to see in 98% in the world. But if I can add one thing, it's going to be this. Try to look into this and see if it's going to be helpful in your case.
It's good advice.
Agreed, actually.
Also,
Go
yeah.
for it.
So I guess practically, if you wanted to apply that, you would look at the code and identify the features, and then you'd create a package named after that, and then you'd put, whatever architecture you do will give you different technical concerns. But if you're doing, if you're doing something like this, but you want to organize by feature, then you might have your controller and your repository and your service in the same package. That gives you another big benefit, which is that now suddenly most of those things can be non-public, which is great. In 2025 with these tariffs and all that, it's good to save space and save money on cloud storage and GitHub. If you can save a few thousand kilobytes, that might be something, maybe a penny a year or something. I don't know, whatever. Get rid of the word public if you can. The other thing I would register is that you're using Lombok, which I get it, just like was explained before. It's very common to see that, but the Java team really don't want you to do that. They say that Lombok is a fork, in effect, of Java, and it's not using the well-known hooks to extend the Java compiler like annotation processors, right? So as a result, you can't guarantee that you can move from one version of Java to the next without being stuck, because you've got all this Lombok. Lombok, to their credit, they have this de-Lombokify thing that you can use to basically reify the what would be code generated. You can reify it and just have it generated into your source code. I see somebody's Slack or Discord or whatever.
Yeah, brought in to expose the folks talking mess on the side. But that is all.
Danny, is there a chance I can share my screen, for example,
Yeah.
with my ID?
I would love that. Go for it.
All right. It's my first time on Discord. Trying to see where's the screen sharing button. Share a screen. It is grayed out. I can't click on it. Do I need a permission or something?
I don't think so, because Josh was able to share his screen. It might be a thing on your end.
Okay, let me see resolution. Oh, I'm not a Nitro subscriber. I think
But
you
that
should
stops
be
you
able
from sharing it?
No, it says I can share in a lower resolution.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can.
Oh my God, it's a low resolution. No.
What do you guys can see? Can you see?
I see your
Discord
Discord. Yeah.
right now? Okay. Can you see the code?
No, I think you only shared the Discord on the screen, but you didn't share the whole screen.
All right. Let me stop sharing. And I'm going to do this again. It's the same thing.
Yeah, I only see your Discord.
All right.
Without stopping the stream, share it one more time, and I'll tell you how to fix that.
So when I'm selecting, let's say make selection, I'm making selection, asks me share this window, share all application windows.
No, so when you do the screen share, you have applications, screens, and capture devices. Do you have 3 options?
Yes.
And then when you go to screens, are you doing screen 1, screen 2? Or I mean, whatever screens it shows?
So it says what you're streaming, a Windows screen or app, change the code review, streaming channel. Huh.
If you just stream regularly, and then you can, instead of ending your stream, hit change stream, I can see your options because I don't know what you have.
Okay. Let me do this.
Yeah.
Is it
And
the
so now
same?
change stream.
Change stream. Okay.
Oh, I can't see the pop-up.
Add-
Oh. Do you want to screenshot that and put it in the chat real fast?
Entire screen. Is that
Oh, there you
better,
go.
or-
There you go. I can see the editor.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Few other things which I looked briefly into it. When we have the course configuration, and I noticed some of those strings, or put this here as the plain strings, there are a couple of ways to do them. And I see all those options are repeated. So allowed origins, it takes strings right here and basically puts them into allowed origins. So one way we can remove all these duplicates from here is by implementing like public, a static, maybe string. Hold on one second. And it's going to be, let's say, origins, right? We're going to put them in array right here. Oops, hold on. And we can put them in here. So in this scenario, we can paste our origins without duplication. What do you, Josh, think? Can you hear
Are you
me?
muted? Josh is muted.
Oh,
And yeah, Broken Finger said exactly what I was going to say. Dry.
yeah. And this is a step one. This is like if you have some repetition, and also there's a concept of magic string, don't usually want to put any exposed strings into the methods because it may be hard to change. But we can take this idea one step further, and instead of having those origins in the code, because it's something you would usually change based on the environment. For example, in the local host, you will expose localhost, but when you deploy to staging or production, you less likely want to have access from the localhost. And you have the perfect place in this application properties file where you can say something, you can define custom properties, let's say app, security, origins.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sir.
Oh goodness, that was fun. I was going to suggest maybe a property file. I think I saw that in the comments too.
Okay.
You extricate the values to application.properties.
Oops. So I'm going to go back and take this thing right here and put it. Hold on. I'm going to select all of those, remove them, and then I think that is going to do this. Now what I can do is I can define a private final string array, and I can say origins. And then I can add the constructor. And in here, I can use, help me out.
Sergey,
Add
is it possible for you
value.
to zoom in a little bit?
I
The
wish.
chat. No, meaning zoom in on your editor.
I know Josh may know how to do this. Wait,
Command and then plus.
Command and then. Nope, doesn't work.
What?
Let me do this.
There you go.
Okay.
Where is this code, by the way?
I sent an email to you with the repo. You should have received that email. Let me know if you don't have it. I can actually, now that I see you on Discord, I can actually message you.
So you did the
repolling.
reasonable thing, and I didn't see it. I see it.
You got it?
Fine. Yeah, there it is. Thank you,
Okay.
Spencer. Yes.
All right. Shall we
So
move on?
people-
What do you, Josh, think? What do you guys think?
Yeah. Good. I just wouldn't use the word public there. Well, except where you need to, extra code for no reason.
Yeah. To be honest, the application.properties was my natural instinct to go with. So I kind of just solved that right there. And I will say that the front end and back end both have this habit of being very repetitive when they probably don't necessarily need to. It could be just because of multiple people working on something without actually realizing someone's already implemented something. At least on the front end side, I was really hoping for more reusable components where somebody can kind of just reuse the thing over and over again instead of just rewriting or reworking something that already exists. In the back end, I found a couple areas that were similar. I think one we just kind of addressed personally, but we'll jump into several others that I'm pretty confident about in a moment.
I couldn't get the code to compile, which is interesting.
You need the
Incoming
application
variables.
properties because the environmental variables in them.
Yeah, I'll DM them to you. Hold on. I don't want to expose everybody to this. Hold on. And I'll also message this to you as well, Sergey, just
Mhm.
to have. So that should help if compiling anything there.
I'm not going to compile right now, but I will
Yeah.
go through the other things. And this is another part where we have the string right here, and then it says the scope of, I guess, the access for the Google Calendar. In this example, this scope can be moved out to the application properties, but it probably will remain constant. And one of the things, for example, if I would do this, I will just outsource it to some sort of a static variable. It can be public or private. Public static final. Let's say, what is this? Is it calendar scope? And I'm going to put this right here.
What version of Java are you using?
Me personally, the one that project runs on is 17.
Oh, okay. Next thing I'd recommend, put a SDKman environment file in there or something, or Java M. It does not compile in Java 24.
So that's one of the other things what I would suggest is to outsource any strings that you have overall into variables like this. So if you want to change the scope later, you don't have to go into the code and understand what this thing is doing, but you only change that static variable.
Yeah.
And similar thing right here, like for example, this redirect URI, it's a similar pattern. Like if you, it's probably also need to be pulled out into the application properties because it's going to be different for different environments, but you get the point.
Yeah. Wayne has a comment here, which they deployed with Docker as well. Docker would also help with making sure an application runs the same versions, and it makes upgrading much easier to manage. I'm going to move this here because I want to find this one thing that I had noted myself. It was...
Oh, you've got string values in these configuration classes. I just noticed. That's not great. If you could just inject them in the parameter list for the Java mail sender there, you could just say string mail username, string mail password, and then put the value annotation there. It's not like you're going to test it, but if you did, at least now you'd have a sense of what's required to get a valid thing. And also, since you're not using those value annotated class variables anywhere else, it just seems like it's reasonable to localize it.
Is that what you're just saying?
Yeah. And then, nice. And remove the word public. Because again, you've bought yourself nothing by doing it. And for the class as well. Oh, so nice.
Another thing that I noticed, and this is something that I would like to point out for the domain-driven design, trying to figure out where I saw this part. Appointment service. So this is the part which is responsible for creating an appointment. And currently, it does a few things. So it looks for the service, then it looks for the technician, it gets appointment, which is, I think it's creating the new one. And then what it does is does the string formatting to make sure that that we have the right estimated time, then save this appointment, then it try to get the window for the technician, then it sets the technician reserved time, and then save into the repository and returns the appointment. It's okay to do that, but I think we can do better. Like if for some reason we can encapsulate this logic, and I think we can throw internally within the repository, and actually we can delete this whole thing. 1 second. We can do this. It's much nicer. So then we can do the same part right here.
Thank you.
Now, as we talked about the domain, we can, I think maybe, and again, you guys suggest we can use booking as a domain, but appointment is probably going to work out as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say something create or get booking right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this to booking. And if we have that part, we can move it into the booking. Like in the future, I'm not going to do this right now, but let's say we can put it somewhere here instead of having it enabled in that part. I think it's would be beneficial if it's going to be part of the booking domain. If that's the true, see what's going to happen. We're going to remove that part, get into booking. And the same thing, if we can do for the technician, we can say, for example, technician, let's say service. For example, what's that? Reserve slot. And we're going to move that part into the technician. I don't think we need to return everything, but if we do this, look how nicer that becomes. And then each part is going to be responsible for its own service by removing the overhead when I'm trying to understand what's the appointment is about. Does that make sense? Do you guys find that helpful?
Yeah, so trying to follow more of a single responsibility principle, right, within each of those methods, helper methods we're using in there. Also, that bar trick is pretty cool. That I didn't know about that.
Yeah. Yeah, because for some reason, let's say now we're creating an appointment, right? And then I don't think you have any Boolean validation logic, but let's say we can only create appointment if customer has enough balance and is able to pay for that appointment, right? Then we need to add something like customer service dot validate, if I can type correctly, validate customer. So now you just add the common logic without, how to say, making and expanding the scope of that method.
Yeah, without cluttering it with other logic outside of just what needs to be done to create it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So I'm going to say a few other things that I noticed. When we go into the repository, I think the technician repository, I think I saw some entity, I think technician, few things. In Java convention, we usually use camel case like this. And if I remember correctly, and Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, Hibernate will automatically translate camel case to snake
Yeah.
case.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Been a few
you don't
years
have to
since Hibernate.
sacrifice. You can do like this. Additionally, I think I saw another repository. Yeah, this is the one. So for example, you have appointment repository, and this is about domain separation as well. But in the appointment, I think you store client name, client email, client phone, which seems like you also store the part of the client. It would be great if you are going to have something like
Client.
private string. Let's say either you grab the whole object or you have the reference for the client ID, and then you grab the entire client by reference its ID or something.
How are you? Is this REST or are you doing actual client or JavaScript? See, I guess it must be REST. Or HTTP at least.
Hold on. I think, yeah, there is a request mapping. I think it's REST. Oh, okay. The other part.
Autowired.
Yes.
Yeah. Every time you use it autowired, a unit test dies.
It should only be on a constructor, right?
Yeah, when you can. So, and which is almost always, it's just make it cleaner. That class doesn't need to be public. The constructor doesn't need to be public, and the field can be injected in the constructor.
So when you use the public keyword, you don't actually have to type it if it's going to be public. You just class.
Well, it's not going to be public, but who needs it to be, right? You're going to test it in the same package, in your unit tests, and otherwise Spring will see it. It's package private. That's fine. Remember, things are in Java. Things are package private by default.
Okay.
It's IntelliJ's fault, not yours. But when you go to File New and create a new class, or when you click on your project view and create a new class there, just try doing a new class. You'll see it's got the word public there by default, but that's bad design, right? You have an object-oriented, look, why is that public? Nobody asked it to make it public. Java doesn't want it to be public. By default, things in Java, the minimum viable class is not public, you know? You have information hiding, good object-oriented design. So I don't know why. If you're going to have everything in a big, flat, global, public namespace, then just use C, you know? For honest. But this is Java. We don't need to do that.
One
And-
question that I have, if
Yeah.
y'all want to even, oh, sorry, I thought you were moving to another file. Go for it.
Yeah,
Well,
just
like-
to add to what Josh mentioned, like if we're in the controller usually is not injected, it's not injected into another services, so it doesn't make sense to make it public. But if you have one package referencing the other, then they're probably one of those cases where you need to make it public. Is it right, Josh?
Yeah, but before we go, line 40 right there, there's that auto wired. Everything else is private final. Java mail senders, not, I don't know why. Just makes me sad. So yeah, if you have a thing that is referenced from one module to another, then yes, you can imagine that thing being public. But even there, you know, the convention is to create your well-known domain types and the things that are actually public as high up in the hierarchy as possible. And then you have implementation details around particular features and things like that in nested packages. And you know, the things that are public to everything that is, you know, subordinate should be in the root packages, and the detailed implementations and the machinery to actually sort of implement that thing should be in nested packages, right? So you might have a public interface that says, I've got these 3 methods, and then you've got an implementation that actually implements that interface and has 10 methods, but you don't care because nobody's going to see them. They're all just, you know, the thing that gets exported is the interface. That's what people consume and they inject. So you can do a lot more behind the scenes. You might have method listeners, you might have event listeners, you might have, you know, AOT stuff. There might be a whole bunch of stuff that shouldn't be in the shape of your public exported SPI, but that you can have in your implementation. So your appointment service, you know, that could be. And by the way, if you don't reference other things in other packages, which is very common, then it's okay for everything to be packaged private, right? Or even better, if you do reference things, but you can communicate through events. This way, you don't, you know, one service doesn't inject another, for example. That's good. And if you're going to inject another thing from another package, make sure there's no cycles. I'd be very curious to see if you have cycles here. Like, if you were to move everything to an appointments package and another thing to a, what else do you have? I don't know. What other domains do you have here? You've got prompt services. Yeah, if you move things to different packages based on the domain, would there be examples of things in one root package injecting or referring to other things in another root package, which in turn has things that refer to the first package? You know what I'm saying? Cyclical call graphs.
Like that bean cycle error deal.
No, I mean, just even forget about Spring. Just conceptually, like, I don't know. Let's say it's very hard to sort of in the abstract here, but imagine you had orders and fulfillment, right? And then in the orders package, you've got order service, and then in the fulfillment package, you've got fulfillment service. Does fulfillment service reference a constant from orders package, and then does the orders package have a bean that in turn references something, maybe another bean or whatever, from the fulfillment package, right? Like, you just don't want to have, if these things are sharing references to each other, even if they're not injected beans, even if they're constants or strings or whatever, that's maybe a cycle.
Yeah, appointments and services do use each other's.
Oh. So maybe there's a common root for both of them that needs to be created.
Good thought.
So one thing here, and then I'll present the thing that I was going to present previously. But we had a question in the chat. I was going to answer it, and I'm like, it makes no sense for me to answer this with Josh Long here. And the question is, wait, where to go? Okay, is Spring Boot to Java similar to React to JavaScript?
God, that is the most offensive thing I've ever heard. No, come on, no. Wait, Spring is good. It's good. Don't ever say that again. No. Besides, React is a way to transform JavaScript into a headache, whereas Spring is actually a framework that's meant to help you get to production. There's a difference, right? It's more like Next.js, I suppose, is actually the proper analogy, right? Because the React people will lie to you and say this is just a library, you know, it's not a framework, you know, and then, but of course it is a framework. It's just not a well-done framework. So you have all these other frameworks that are actually frameworks that come along and flesh out the whole of the React story so that you have a cohesive set of tools you can use to actually get the job done, right? And so Next.js is the most common, I think, example these days, and it provides more than just rendering components in the UI layer, right? So yes, in that respect, you know, in the way that React is a so-called killer app for JavaScript, you know, it's just like Rails was to Ruby, you know. I suppose you could say that Spring is a very natural sort of place to start your journey with that particular paradigm and ecosystem. But it's not technically, or in terms of overall utility, so limited as React is to JavaScript.
Okay. Second thing I was going to lead with, if you go to the service file, service.java,
Yes, sir.
it's going to be somewhere around lines like 65, 66. Yes, this. I wanted to get your take on this. I have a take on this, but I'm very curious on how y'all view this private mapping.
On what? Oh, on the line. Okay, generated date and time slots window.
Yeah.
What's the? Oh, you're. I might quibble with use of a map, but otherwise I don't really care. It looks okay.
So I guess from
So
my
what's the
perspective,
context? So do we need to understand? Do you want to understand the change the method internals, or do you understand?
well, for me, I think for me, I thought the bigger thing was we're using a for loop and we're constantly reiterating what this the string date strings are and things like that instead of doing it outside of the loop. I thought this was like a very repetitive process versus like an ulterior potential solution for this.
That was us hard coding the 7-day availability. That's
Yeah.
how we generate all the time slots in 30-minute increments. And then from there, we do the filtering based on the duration of the service and then whatever available time the technicians have. But yeah, I agree. It's not the best solution, but it's been a couple days on this file and I needed to get something in there.
Yeah, no, like I think there's always going to be situations, even in like regular companies, where you may have to make compromises on certain things. For me, I think the bigger thing that I was thinking about is like we could have certain values already there, like start times, end times, like hard coded. We don't need to reiterate over that every single time. Like we don't need to reiterate over the start time and the end time, or we don't need to change what the date is because we know what the date is, right? But it would be looking at like only using the for loop for example, the actual things that need to be iterated over. So now you're already reducing the number of things that are being altered, changed, and reiterated over. So like the logic stays a lot cleaner, at least to me. Simple things like that.
Example of what I put a change right now.
Yeah, very close. Yeah, very close. I would the slight adjustments, but overall big theme would be this for sure.
Honestly, I would say the most unpopular thing, the first and most important, make this work. I think that's and then make it better.
Yeah.
I think we designed our schemas a little differently and didn't have a endpoint, like just to get the time slots to the front end, we're receiving a service ID after the user selects a service, and from there, in that GET request, we're returning all the time slots. So I think if we designed it a little bit differently, the logic wouldn't be so wild, and there could be a different solution we wouldn't have to do something like this just to create time slots to filter against.
Yeah.
Just optimization for the future.
Looks cool.
But overall, good stuff, man. I like it a lot. I want to. Is there anything else like big or pressing that y'all want to give feedback on or share value on? Because we could still move to the front end.
One part that I would like to say, I remember, and you let me know how it works. I remember you were logging in as an admin to check the assignment for the plumber, right? But when I look at the dependencies in the actual configuration, I have not found security.
Stop right there.
What's that?
An all for show.
Oh, okay.
Got us.
So
only OAuth we have is for that Google Calendar login. We didn't actually set it up for app wide.
Okay. So just making sure, like, if you only allow admin to do any changes, make sure like you put some security that the endpoint cannot be triggered by unauthorized user.
Yeah, we don't even have a security config for protecting different routes or anything. But I hear you on that.
I was
Yeah, that will be
wondering if
my
I could,
last take.
I was wondering if I could bring up a few things. One is please use Java 21. It's free scale. And then two, and we'll come back to Java 21 or later. Actually, use Java 24. That's what's out. Java
So I was
17
going to ask.
yeah. Java 17 is from the distant past, and it's not socially acceptable in polite company. But then there's also I was wondering if I could show you Spring Modulate. It would just take a minute, maybe. And
Yeah.
it's not you. There's no way to. I'm not saying you should do. I don't know. It might not be as easy as I'm going to make it seem to apply it to your code base. It's one of those things where if I had managed to talk to you before you started writing the code, maybe you would have gone a little bit of a different way. But either way, what you've got works, and good for you. But maybe Modulate could be something you reach for next time, and I'd love to show you that. But I'm also cognizant of time, Danny.
Yeah.
Can I
Yeah,
show
go for
you
it, go
some
for it.
stuff for
Yeah.
15 minutes, whatever? Okay, so let me let me just make sure I've got no email and stuff. So much stuff I don't know what to do. Okay, close that. Okay, now I'm going to be a new audio device. Hold on. No? Can't hear me?
We can. I think
Okay.
your internet glitched for a second. Yeah.
Yeah, that was super weird. I just moved my home office from one room to another, and it's all goofy now. Okay, so now I'm gonna. My friend Sergey got this right. I'll bet I could do this if I were half as smart as he. Sharing screens. Choose what to share using system interface. Why isn't that the default? Okay. Okay, I'm gonna. Okay. No. Do I have to share a device? Is that the idea? Make selection. What do I?
So it will ask you like applications, screens, share the whole screen. That ends up being the easiest solution. It's not intuitive
What?
from Discord for some reason.
And also, I'm dumb. So these things, when you take them together, Danny, makes it very, very, very difficult for me.
It's not
Okay, here we
just
go.
you though. It's every Discord call we do. If people get confused by it, Discord needs to fix this like order.
Not the window. I'm going to share all application windows. Share entire screen in the top right. Okay.
Yes,
Did that work?
it did. We see it.
Oh, imagine. I wasn't sure that was going to work. Okay, couple of things. So, virtual threads, right? Virtual threads are the big reason to use Java 24 or 21 and later. So let me just show you a quick demo here, just so you can kind of understand why I like them so much. And I'm going to go back to my desktop talk and say, what is it called? HTTP bin. Start up a little Docker container there. Yeah. Docker. There we go. Nothing? Good? Okay, so I'm going to create a little demo here. It's one of my favorite demos. And the problem is that, it's not a problem. The truth is that it's not my demo. I stole it. Okay, I'm stealing this demo from my amazing colleague. Her name is Cora E. Berkeley. Okay, she's a legend. So, don't give me any kudos or anything when you're impressed by this cool little demo here. This is hers. I stole it from her mercilessly. Okay, so the problem is you've got this nice web service. The web server is running on Tomcat. Tomcat is a servlet container, and the default programming model, the default dispatch model for Tomcat is requests come in. Tomcat is a web server listening on a server socket. The server socket gets the new request. and then it spins up a thread, and then inside that thread, it looks up the right servlet to handle the request, and then that servlet is the Spring MVC dispatcher servlet, which in turn looks up the right controller, which in turn invokes the right controller handler method on your controller bean. So all of this is happening inside of a thread, and you've got one thread per request, and that's fine as long as your requests in and out of the service are finite, quick, that kind of thing. But as soon as you start doing things that take time, like, I don't know, using Hibernate to call a database, or calling another web service, or doing authentication via OAuth via another web service, or whatever, that starts to creep up in time. You start wasting a lot of time sitting on that thread, not actually doing the work of producing the response, but instead waiting for the bytes that you can use to then derive the response in the first place. And that's called blocking I/O, right? By the way, am I getting dark? Like, if I need to, is my light? Are the lights disappearing? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I think you're fine.
Ghostly white. Okay, so anyway, like all that to say, you don't want to do that, right? So I've got this little web service I just spun up on my local machine called HTTP bin. This is actually based on, is it running? That's the question there, sir. It says it's running, port 80. So if I go to here, delay, there you go. So it's on localhost 80:delay/5. That's actually a Docker image version of this web service, this real live one that you can go to on the internet, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe the thing on the internet is actually the real live version of the thing you can get via the Docker image. Either way, this is just a little endpoint you can call to. They have other endpoints as well, but it's meant to simulate common HTTP scenarios to, I don't know, so you can test your HTTP client behavior, functionality, whatever. And there's this one endpoint that when you specify 5, it'll specify how long it should wait for the response to come back. So if I specify 5, it'll specify 5 seconds, which in turn means I, as a browser client or an HTTP client, am waiting 5 seconds for the response. So now imagine that's a REST client call. You're making a call to a network service, or it's a JDBC. Imagine this is, instead of a REST HTTP interface, you're using JDBC over a network protocol to talk to a SQL database, right? Either way, you're stuck, right? You are the JDBC Java client, and behind the scenes, there's network I/O happening to the JDBC database, and that is a blocking call because you're sitting on the thread waiting for the response. Here, I'm a browser. I'm making a call to the httpbin.org. I'm waiting for the response. It's called blocking I/O. So okay, I want to avoid wasting time on the thread sitting there waiting for bytes, because remember, threads are precious few and far between. So let's suppose I have a, this is again Cora's demo, right? She's awesome, and I am not. I'm just stealing this really, really cool demo from her, and with her permission and indulgence. And this is a endpoint here, and I'm gonna use the Spring Framework REST client here to make that call. Okay, there we go. Return this .http .get .uri and then we're just gonna call that endpoint. I think it's we said localhost delay /5, and it's certainly not HTTPS .retrieve.body string.class. Okay, so I'm just making a call down to the downstream service. That in turn depends on me having specified a REST client there, right? So I do that, I do this, I do that, I do that, and that. Okay, so let's start that up, and that'll run on port 8080, at least one assumes. And we're going to send some traffic into it. And remember, I've got no virtual threads here. The goal here at the end of the day, like I said, is to avoid wasting time on threads. Because remember, threads are how you access the CPU. And if you do something like sitting there waiting for bytes, or doing something like thread.sleep, you're not using the CPU. You're wasting time. You're waiting for something to happen. And you shouldn't be doing that on threads, because there's only a precious few limited number of threads per JVM, per operating system, etc. So I'm going to use this load balancing tool called Hey. The idea is you can send 40 requests, as many as 20 concurrently, to the local machine, localhost 80/delay. That's my endpoint in Spring MVC. That in turn is going to make network I/O to that HTTP bin. The problem is my machine is really, really freaking good. I don't mean to brag, but I have an amazing machine. And this machine is like one of those top of the line MacBook Pro things with all the toppings, all the RAM, and it's so good you can run Slack and Teams at the same time on this computer.
Whoa.
Okay? This is not some. I know people didn't think this was a thing you could do 10 years ago. So in order to make this more more like what's actually happening in production when you're using commodity hardware on yesterday's cloud, hyperscaler. I'm going to limit the number of threads here. Okay. And by the way, this is not just me. Anybody with a computer in the last 10, 15 odd years has amazing devices. And this is quite the inversion compared to when I started working in IT in 2002. I remember we would get these $20,000 pizza box rack mounted servers, and we were meant to install like Solaris or like something Unix, Linux, maybe eventually, but starting with Unix. And then we're supposed to get them installed and then get them down to the data center. At the time, surely we would do that, but not before we installed Windows and played Doom. And the reason was because when else were you going to get a chance to play a game like that in such an awesome piece of hardware? It just wasn't a thing you could do readily on commodity hardware at home, right? The machines we had at home were terrible, and the machines that we had in production were amazing. It's the opposite now, right? These Macs, even any modern PC in the last 10 years, whatever, these things are amazing. And then quite the contrary, the things you get on AWS or Azure or Google Cloud are, they're kind of mid, right? Like that's the whole point. You buy a lot of them and scale out, not up, right? So I'm going to limit the number of threads because you can't do realistic benchmarking here on a machine with 200 threads. Okay. So remember what I just said. I've got 10 threads now. I'm making a total of 40 requests with as many as 20 at a time. So if I had 20 threads, then in theory, the total test would take 10 seconds, whatever. But I don't. I've only got 10. So somebody's going to have to wait in line. So let's make that request. Let's see what happens.
Oh, we can't see whatever it is that you're trying to show. It just shows white.
What? Why not? Wait, how long have you not been seeing what I'm...
Hold on. Try again. It might have just been my mistake. Oh, that might have been mine. Okay, it might be me.
It was just probably loading the requests.
But can you see this?
I can see that. Sir. And go back to the...
Okay, there's...
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. I was waiting for the load testing to happen. Yeah, great. But I appreciate you because I've done that. I've gotten off on a thread, and then I'm not even sharing my screen. Coffee level low exception, right? Okay, so that's the bad result, right? This is without virtual threads. So it took me a total of 20 seconds to make 40 requests, each of which takes about 5 seconds. Okay, the slowest request took 15 seconds, but remember, each request should be no more than about 5 seconds. 5 seconds plus network latency, which should be, since it's on my local machine, basically nil. It shouldn't be 300% of this fastest. The fastest should be what we're expecting. Okay, let's switch to virtual threads. Virtual threads are awesome, and it's not always easy to make these kinds of refactorings, but I believe that if we stick together and focus, then we can. Okay, it's done. So let's restart the application, and we'll run the tests again. Okay, here we go. Take 502. Okay, much better. Okay, got 200 40 responses with status code 200, and then this is with virtual threads, and then over here is without virtual threads. Okay, so you can see the difference there, right? I mean, that's a night and day difference. It's 10 seconds versus 20, right? Total. For the same number of requests, the same exact endpoint, the same code. All I did was set a property. The slowest request took just slightly more than 5 seconds, whereas over here it's 300% and some change, right? The fastest was 5 seconds. The fastest was 5 seconds, okay? Truth be told, without virtual threads, the fastest in an uncontested sort of situation should be slightly faster, just ever so slightly faster. So this is the one benefit for not using virtual threads, but it's not enough to make or be over it shouldn't overcome the benefits otherwise, but I think it's just interesting to note. Okay, so 5 seconds, average 5.1, over here 7.8, and their RPS, request per second, 1.9 versus 3.9. So literally 2 whole seconds, 2 whole requests per second more, double the number of RPS, right? On that very, very now again, this is a bit of a it's a contrivance, isn't it? I've got only 10 threads. Come on, get real, right? I'm going to have more than that in my local machine and in production, but I'm forcing, and each request takes 5 seconds. Again, that's a contrivance. Most things shouldn't take 5 whole seconds, right? But you can see that this is free scale. It allows you to handle more requests with the same JVM, the same runtime, the same code, etc. So virtual threads are huge. And actually, you have this in other languages. You mentioned React, and I didn't. You did, but in JavaScript, TypeScript, C#, Kotlin, a number of other languages, you've got this thing called async await. So you can say, okay, like I've got a function get customer, and I can return a promise of this is like a pseudo TypeScript thing, and I can make this an async function, and I can say const customer equals await get customer, etc. And that async await is telling the runtime, it's saying, hey, runtime, I'm about to do a thing that's going to take a little while. Feel free to park me in RAM. And then as soon as the thing that I'm waiting for, which is in this case, some bytes, as soon as that finishes, feel free to continue, put me on another thread and let me continue. So in theory, if you could somehow print out, I'm sure there's a way, I just don't know. If you could somehow print out the name of the thread that is executing before on line 5 and then print it out again on line 7, you might see that they're actually different threads because the runtime is actually transparently written the code so that it actually happens on 2 different threads. And you can see that in this case. So this is the response, right? Response equals this, and system out thread dot current. Actually, we here var message equals thread dot current thread. Okay, and I'll do that, and then do this, and down here I'll say message equals thread dot current thread plus system dot line separator. Okay, so I'm just going to print out message. Okay, so we should see now return response now. So return response. Go ahead and restart that. So all I've done is I'm printing out the current thread before, and then I'm taking note of the current thread after, and I'm printing out the whole thing, right? Okay, so running the same test just to force some contention, but we should see it pretty quickly after 5 seconds. Okay, there we go. So see that? It's already happening. I've got a virtual thread, right? This is the before, and then after the semicolon is after. So virtual thread is 105, 105, but the actual thread, the operating system thread is 1.6, whereas over here it's 1.5. Here's 1.7, 1.2, right? So we're getting the same effect as async await, but we're not, like, remember, this is Java. We don't waste time writing extra code for no reason like they do in JavaScript. We don't have to do all this low-level async await stuff. We don't have to change everything in the code base to get that same scalability, right? It's just you just change the nature of the thread on which this code runs, and the results are better. So it's a nice situation. I want you all to just breathe this in. This is the first, and let's be real, probably the last time that Java syntax is better than what they have in other languages. Okay, just enjoy this. Oh, okay, that's nice. So that's virtual threads. That's free scale. That could, I mean, if your numbers are anything like that, then that means you're paying for one less server because you can handle the same amount of work with one that you would have otherwise needed 2, right? That's a real improvement by moving to Java 21, or better yet, 24. Now the question is, why move to 24? Why 21? Well, 21 has virtual threads, so you could start there, but there's a bug, okay? And the bug is, if you do something like this, if I have like a private final object monitor, and like that, and then I say synchronize to this monitor, and then I do this network IO, right, inside of that synchronization block in Java 21 to 23. I guess I need the response, whatever, var response, okay, and then blah, and then yeah, okay. If I did that kind of horrible code, not that you would, I mean, who would do a read on a network socket inside of a synchronized block, right? That, if you want to fix this, it's easy. Just move this out of the synchronized block, and then when you want to mutate state that you can control along memory boundaries, put it inside there. But the point is, if you didn't do that for whatever reason, then this would actually force the behavior to degrade back to the way it was in Java 19 or Java 20 or Java 17, where you do not have virtual threads. Now, they got rid of this. They fixed this in Java 24. So even this situation, which, let's be honest, is probably exceedingly rare, even that's gone now, right? So I'm a big fan of that. That's a free upgrade. You can just Java 21 or 24, even better. Also, have you tried GraalVM native images? Like, have you looked at that stuff? Team, am I still here?
You are. He said no.
No.
You are.
Java GraalVM native images are there's this thing. There's OpenJDK, right? GraalVM is a distribution of OpenJDK. It's open source. There's also a proprietary version, which is, as I understand it, free to use, but there's some extra niceties in there. It's free to use in basically all contexts, as far as I know, including production at any scale. It's just that they have some things they don't want to give away, right? But you can use the open source one, and that's what I'm using. And if you go back to your build here, let's see, here we go, add GraalVM, right? Copy and paste that build. I'm updating my build here because I'm lazy. Command-Shift-I. So I'm just reloading the build. Now you can do this, right? So skip tests and p native :compile. Okay, and this takes a long time. This is an ahead of time compilation. So it's going to look at my code and it's going to say, hey, you're not using this class, you're not using that class, you're not using this type. The whole Java Swing user interface library in the JRE, you're not going to need it, so we'll throw that away. You don't need this reflective metadata for that, so we're going to throw all that away. It's just going to throw away everything you don't need, and then it's going to turn whatever remains into operating system and architecture specific native code. So if you want to build like a CLI, or like a console or something, you could build myapp.exe, right, on Windows, or if you're on Mac, you could build my app, right? In this case, I built just VT, which is in the target directory. So VT is just a statically self-contained binary. I don't need Java now. I can give anybody who's running a Mac, I can give them VT, right, and they can run it. They don't have to have Java installed. They don't have to have anything installed. So it's just a native binary. There's the application. Is my existing application? Okay, that's fine. So yeah, you can see it got a lot faster for some reason on the second run, right? There you go. It's and the second run is more reflective. On Linux or Windows, for some reason, the second run, the performance you see on the second run in Mac, you get that from the first run onward in Linux and in Windows, right? So it's always fast, whereas in Mac, for some reason, there's this like, even for native images, there's something that has to be done in the operating system that warms up some cache or something. But anyway, 43 milliseconds, right, as opposed to the, whatever, 800 milliseconds or 600 or whatever it was before, right? So 43 milliseconds to start up the program. Much more importantly, this is a Spring Java app with everything included, including the virtual machine, the JVM, and there's a process identifier here, ps-o RSS, measure the resident set size in kilobytes. That's 76 megs. That includes the JRE, that includes the code for your web server and Spring and Tomcat and everything, right? So that's probably a tenth of the RAM footprint of your typical JRE application, which again, if there's some sort of you're probably paying by the amount of memory you're using in most cloud infrastructure, right? So this is a very big. This could be 5-10x reduction in footprint size. Okay, so that's we could go into. I'd love to talk to y'all offline and show you how to move some of that code. Or we can work on that separately. Any questions on that before I show you the Modulith stuff, or if we can show you the Modulith stuff?
I don't think there's any questions.
Okay, good. I'm trying to make sure we're on the same page. And then finally, Modulith, and this one is even sort of more profound, and I'll try and be more abbreviated. But basically, web Modulith, JDBC, right? Postgres, Docker Compose. What else? So Modulith. Okay, web, Modulith, data, JDBC, Postgres, Docker Compose, GraalVM. I feel like that's, you know what? Actually, I'm going to get rid of the Docker. Well, here, let's just generate it. Okay, hit generate. But I'm going to cheat. I've got an existing database that we can use quickly, so I don't belabor the point. I'm just going to call initdb. Okay, got a Postgres container running in a second. Docker PS. Is that running? Did it work? Well, Docker RNF. Close that. Okay, go over here. Close that. There. That's our. Do that one more time. This time for. Okay. So now we'll go to the downloads directory, UAO, Modulith. And the idea here is to write code in such a way as to reduce the blast radius of change. You can start with this and then work your way to full-on domain-driven design or hexagonal architecture or whatever. But it's very good to sort of help you write code in such a way that you're not inadvertently creating dependencies that other people have to reconcile before they can move forward. It helps you stay in your own swim lane, so to speak. So imagine you're trying to build a simple application. I have a database, as I indicated here a second ago, running on my local machine in Docker, right? So let's say I do Postgres QL localhost my database, yeah, and I've got a username, okay, my user, and then password equals secret, okay? Okay, I'm gonna put that there, do the thing where I test the connection, change
Wait,
credentials.
did you leave a T off the end?
Yes. Good catch. Pair programming for the win. Look at that. This is why they pay you the big bucks, buddy. Oh, look at that. This fixed that. You're awesome. Look at that. Okay, so go here. My database got a table called dog, and in this, I've got a bunch of dogs that we want to adopt, right? Or they want to put for an adoption service. So here's the ID, here's the name, there's the description, date of birth, and then owner, right? And the owner column is null at the moment, okay? And I do this demo a lot. I like this demo because it helps me. It's kind of catharsis, because I have a terrible dog. I mean, he's my dog and we love him, but he's not a good boy, right? And he reminds me of another dog about which I learned during the pandemic named Prancer. And this is Prancer. Now, Prancer's owner was looking for a new home in 2021 for this dog. And my dog's his name is Peanut. And I don't know, he might be lurking behind the blue screen with a knife or something. I don't know. But anyway, this other dog, Prancer, not a good boy either. And this dog went viral, right? This woman put out an ad describing this dog, and it went super viral. It was on the news and everything. And so it's very funny. She says, okay, I've tried for the last several months to post this to dog for adoption and make him sound palatable. The problem is he's just not. There's not a very big market for neurotic, man-hating, animal-hating, children-hating dogs that look like gremlins. But I have to try because I have to believe there's someone out there for Prancer because I'm tired, and so is my family. Every day we live in the grips of the demonic Chihuahua hellscape he has created in our home. She says, I am convinced at this point that he's not a real dog, but more like a vessel for a traumatized Victorian child that now haunts our home. God, this poor dog. And then she warns rather ominously, Prancer wants to be your only child. And she says, we already addressed the men and children situation. If you have people over, he would have to be put away like a vacuum. I know finding someone who wants a Chucky doll in a dog's body is hard, but I have to try. And then she signs off and she says, oh, he's only 2 years old and will probably live to be 21 through pure spite. So take that into account if you're interested. And again, cute dog, right? Like I'd pet that. That's a cute dog right there. So I think about this dog a lot. I think about this dog and my terrible dog a lot. And they're both terrible, spicy dogs, but nonetheless, I think they deserve a home. So the idea is I want to build a service to support adopting them. Even terrible dogs deserve loving homes. So this is Prancer, okay? And our goal is to adopt him, right? So, okay, imagine you go into this and you build we're not doing vibe coding here, okay? I've got an idea I want to arrive at, and I'm not going to just spend all week doing it. So we're going to say adoptions, and I've got a package in there. I'm going to say dog adoption service, and in the dog adoption service, I'm going to remove the word public. Maybe I'll make this transactional, and I've got a domain, right? I've got record int string name, string owner. Oh goodness, string owner, and then string description, right? So there's my domain, right? And I'm using string data JDBC, and that in turn I'm using with Java records, right? I love Java records. Huge fan, big fan. So there's that, and then dog repository. This is my data access layer. I see that I think you already have some of these in your code. I'm pretty sure I saw those in your code as well. And then there you go. Okay. So that's my data layer, such as it is. These are the 2 lines I had to write to build a full SQL data access layer. I'm not proud, but hey, 2 lines is 2 lines. Okay. So there's my service, and we're gonna have a method here to adopt a dog in dog ID, and then we're gonna provide the new owner. Yeah. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna say this: find the dog if it exists. If it's present, then we're going to update the dog's field, the owner field. So var updated equals new dog. Thank you, AI. That was so good. Did you see how that worked? I didn't even have a template set up for that or anything. That's just like AI starting to know me. Okay. Good. There. And I can maybe announce updated this dog, right? Voila. And okay, so I want to put a simple HTTP controller there as well. And notice again, there's no reason to create the word public anywhere here so far. It's all keeping it all in the family, all in the package private sort of area, and okay, void adopt, and this could be at post mapping, and then dog ID, right? adoption. Right, and we have a request param. Okay, request param. And this would be a path variable into dog ID. Okay, so let's start that up. See what we get. I go back to the command line. Okay. Oh, it's, you know what I did wrong? I did wrong. I did this thing. I kept the Docker Compose thing in there. I forgot to. I should have removed it. What the Docker Compose thing does is it generates this Docker Compose file for you. But I don't want Spring. It's just very convenient. If you want a Docker image that has Postgres or whatever, just select that, and it'll give you most of what you need, and you're off to the races. And if you've left this dependency in here, it'll automatically start the compose.yaml file for you, starting up the Docker image whenever you restart the application. But in our case, we've already got a SQL database, right? We already got the database with the dogs in it. So I've removed that, and now it goes back down to 0.8 seconds, almost 0.9 seconds, okay? As opposed to the 3 point whatever, because Docker was starting up. So HTTP 8080 dogs 45, that's Prancer, and adoptions. And the owner is going to be Danny, okay? Because, you know.
I love the animals.
Yeah, good, great with animals, even. But this animal's not good with humans. So if anybody can overcome that kind of a that cantankerous of the dog, maybe it's you, my friend. I believe in you. So here we go. Updated, right? Dog ID 45 name, blah blah blah. Okay, owner is Danny. Confirm as much here. So this is all pretty stock standard stuff. We've done it. You know, he's got an owner, but that's not typical, right? So you can imagine having another bit of bureaucracy. Maybe you have a veterinarian that has to look at this, right? And so you can create a new service for the vet, and of course the vet is just a doctor for the dog. So we shall call this a dog tour. Okay. Now I could create this like that: public void checkup into dog ID, and I could say you know, checking up blah. Okay. And I could use the dog tour back over here in my dog adoption service, scrolling down. And IntelliJ has this nifty feature. Watch this. Dog tour checkup. Ta-da! Okay, and this is not required. Doesn't matter which order, but I like it when the smaller things are on the top. Okay, so now I do that. Same post, and it says checking up on dog ID. Great, that's kind of worked, except I've got, you know, these are two modules. These are two root packages, and I've got one thing being dependent upon on the other, right? And that's okay. Strictly speaking, there's nothing wrong with that, except in this case, it's void. The return value of this is void. I don't actually care. I don't even care about the return type. I'm scheduling the checkup. I'm not waiting for the outcome of the checkup. I just need it to get scheduled. It's irrelevant, right? One way or another, right? So I don't need this to happen in the same code. I don't want this code to become too busy, especially since I don't depend on the outcome. So instead of doing that, I'm going to decouple this. I'm going to make these things a little bit more elegant by using event-based architecture, right? And event-based architecture is really nice, and it's the beginnings of patterns like CQRS, of patterns like event-based transfer and things like that, and also event carried state transfer, event sourcing, CQRS, you know, etc. Right? So I've got dog adoption event. And I'm going to publish an event from one module in the Spring framework to another, like that, right? I'm saying Spring, inject this application event publisher, publish this event, and then any other Spring Bean that wants to listen for this dog adoption event can do so. And that's great, because now I can go over here. Maybe this is transactional as well. Nope. And then I can say, okay, at event listener, I don't need the word there. And this can be the dog adoption event instead, okay? Because now I go back, publish this again, and you can see it says checking up on dog adoption event. And so they're decoupled. One side doesn't know about each other. I've not had to, the only thing that is intentionally public is this event, and I'm keeping my dependencies and my implementation details to myself, you know. But still, am I completely decoupled? Like, what happens if I go over here, thread.sleep 5000, threads throws exception, and now I restart this, okay? Oh, no, stop it. Go over here, do that. It's waiting 5 seconds, isn't it? Right? I'm doing the same thing, but because I'm waiting 5 seconds in the other thing, I'm temporally coupled. So how can we get around this? Well, Spring Module has this nice annotation. I mean, wait, actually, before that, you could do this. You could say add event and then add async, and this will run this in a separate method. But you know, Spring Module has a nice thing that's even better, because it'll run in a separate method, but it'll also make sure that it keeps track of the event, so that if something goes wrong, you can recover from it. So you can say over here, Module, initialize the schema. Yes, please. Okay. And Modulith, republish that string events on restart. Yes, please. So go back over there. And now post that again. You see it returned immediately. But if I go over here and refresh, I've got a new table called event publication. I see the listener ID, which is doctor.checkup. I see the event type. I see the serialized representation of the event, right? And I've got the publication date and the completion date, which should now be not null, right? Because 5 seconds later, right? So now let's try again. Do that. Refresh. You can see its completion is not null. Waiting for the thing to actually get invoked. Refresh, and there it is. So this is convenient. But now let's try this one more time, and I'm going to stop the program. Okay. And now I've missed the message, haven't I? I've got an inconsistent state. You can see that the event was dispatched, but the listener listening to the event never finished. So I don't want my system in an inconsistent state. I've adopted the dog, but as yet it's not clear that I've also scheduled a checkup. Well, now you can use eventual consistency by restarting the app, and Spring Modulith will automatically re-queue the event. So let's just do that here. Okay, there we go. Checking up on dog adoption event. Right. So you go there, and there you go, completed date. So you get eventual consistency, right? And this is nice. You've got one module depending on the other. You can communicate in terms of asynchronous sort of events. You're decoupled. Also, how do you know if you're decoupled? How do you know if you're modular? Right? It's not like I'm saying public is the enemy all the time. I'm just saying be very clear about when you do it, and you want to be able to have good reasons to do it. So let's write a test to make sure that things are actually modular. Application modules.of. Modulith application.class, am.verify, print out the modules, and let's document the modules, right? There we go. And voila. Okay, so you go to the target directory, and you can see, well, first of all, in the console, you can see the test is green. You can see that we logically have an understanding of what modules are in play, adoptions and vet. And we can see also on the target directory, I have Spring Modulith docs and components.uml. This is a plant UML diagram that shows you the C4 architecture boundaries of your system, right? And as you change the code, so too will this architecture diagram update, right? So it's now you can actually see and visualize how the system is being pulled together. And so, okay, let's say this is all being backed by tests powered by Arch Unit, right? Arch Unit will bark if you do something that is against the grain of trying to keep clean, modular, small, focused code. So what does that exactly mean? Well, suppose I have a new package here called validation. Now this is inside of the adoptions package. It's clearly meant to be an implementation detail of that package. It's got to be public though, right? Java doesn't have a package, nested or like a module package private sort of scope. So it has to be public so that I can use it from my dog adoption service. So let's say I inject validation here, validation, okay? I'm not even doing anything with it, but I'm going to inject it, which implies a dependency. And if I run the same test, is the test still green? Yes. Okay, great. But now this is a nested type within adoptions, right? Validation. And now I'm going to go over to Dogtour, which is a different module, different root package. And I'll inject that. And I'll say private final validation, inject that into the constructor, restart. And you can see the test has failed. It's saying, hey, you've leaked a non-exposed type, right? This is meant to be an implementation detail of adoptions, and you've exported it and leaked it to another module, another root package, in clear violation of the intent of good, clean, modular design. So these tests kind of keep you on the rails, sort of actually keep you on the rails, as opposed to the whatever they're doing in the Ruby world, right? So this is a really nice way to sort of build your system out. And if you had it to do again, I would encourage you to try building in such a way where Modulith is kind of guiding your approach. Okay, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. That's all.
Honestly, dude, that was fire. That was really, really good. I've condensed down how all the things I was going to talk about with front end into a very short thing, so that way we can all go back to our families. I know we are way over our normal time today, so I appreciate everybody hanging out. Also, we had some good praise. Graal VM and Spring Native builds slow but runs super fast. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me share this real fast. So we will go. My criticisms of the front end are not a lot. There's definitely a lot that we could talk about, but I think there's two things in particular that I really want to hit on as I was kind of like glancing through. What did I make notes of? Oh, yes. So the first one, let me maximize this here so I can see what's going on here. Okay. The first one that I saw, when I look at the page home.jsx, right? Let me zoom this in, by the way. Oops, I forget. I have an ultra wide one under, and sometimes that doesn't look great. Hopefully this looks good. Yeah. So when zoom what? Yeah. So when we look at the home JSX, we have 3 different functions that we're exporting. It would be better if we just made these into reusable components that we could just bring in instead of having all of this logic in here. It just doesn't make the greatest sense and use of space in my opinion. I do like what we're doing. Don't get me wrong, but I do think this could be optimized in a very, very big way here. It's just 3 different things working at the same time. It doesn't necessarily need to be used in that respect. The other thing that I really wanted to touch on, right, is we have this here. So as I was reading through the front end application side, I was like, okay, so we're getting this information, like whatever the response is, and we're posting it, and we're sending it to wherever we're sending it to, right? My big concern with this kind of style of doing something is we have 0 validation on what is actually being sent through. So by having 0 validation there, somebody could put something incorrectly, they can mess something up, but because we haven't vetted any of the response before passing it through, we're just posting it right away. Number one, if there's no backend validation, this is like an even bigger thing by itself. But we should be doing some client-side validation just to make sure we're not overextending the backend for anything. Yes, validate your front end and definitely validate your backend. I'm very big on the aspect of anything that we send to the backend should have several checks going on. And I think that that's a very good practice that you can have going forward. You don't want anything like I won't even get into like the hacking aspects, but we should be validating like certain things, like what is the regex for like I think one of the fields that I saw going into this was like phone number and email address. We should be validating the email address. We should be validating that phone number before we sending it back. We should make sure that even one thing that drives me crazy about some companies that don't do it, trim it. Make sure there isn't an empty extra space at the end that people put in by accident because maybe they copied something and pasted it in there, or they typed in the space without realizing it. A simple trim and 2 parentheses will solve all that. So we should be validating those responses. I think that goes a very, very long way. I think based on the comments and messages that we've had back and forth, I think the team is aware and some of the front end people are aware that there's a lot that could be optimized and fixed on the front end. I think that all just comes through with practice and stuff. But these are some big ones. Exactly. Wayne is saying exactly what I wanted to say, but I don't want to be too difficult on that one. But it's easy for SQL injectioning and cross-site injectioning to happen. It's still a very common thing. I would really, really, Doge site is a perfect example actually of that. So yeah, hopefully that can be certain things that you look at, because for me, those aren't things that I would naturally even think of as a refactor. To me, those are things that should be happening in the first iteration instead of many iterations down the road. So especially when it's like if it's customer information that they could potentially sign up for, I want to make sure that I'm validating that email and all that good stuff from the front end. So hopefully those 2 little key things can help keep you on track and give you something to think about. And if y'all want to talk more in depth, we can always jump on another call and do this. Anything from anybody else on the front end side? Cool. All right. But overall, if I'm being completely honest, good stuff, y'all. I know 6 weeks, not a ton of time. Oh, I see. Oh yeah, there's comments there. There, not a ton of time. So, but I do appreciate the effort that all of y'all put in, especially your team. Like you really came together in a big way. So great lessons all around. To be honest, I'm not gonna lie though, even I took some notes. So I was geeking out during Josh's talk, and so I got to write a couple things down, which I think was great. Yes, I completely agree. And so For those that have been asking me over and over again, when are we doing the next cohort? I don't know. None of us know right now. We're so exhausted from this last one. We're going to take a little break for sure. My gut says we will be doing it before the Commit Your Code conference, but I won't hold us to it in case we have to do it afterwards. But we will be doing another one. And we are toying with the idea, just to put it out there. We learned a lot in this cohort. We learn a lot every cohort, but we are toying with the idea of possibly making the next cohort like $20. And 100% of all the cash will go to like pizza for like the next meetup or something like that. It's basically like just so that way there's a little skin in the game, so people just don't flake or disappear or take it lightly. I know it's still $20, but hopefully that can kind of keep people a little bit more accountable over the course of that. And I think $20 is super reasonable, right? Like even now, Udemy increased the prices. It's cheaper than the dang Udemy courses. So hopefully that can kind of be worth the whole 6-week period. But yeah, we won't monetize it where like we're taking the money. And I'm sure, to be honest with you, based on the results that we've gotten from these cohorts, we probably could at this point, but it's never the goal. 20 Bones sponsor. Okay. Commit Your Code. I'm hoping everyone in here for the most part is coming to Commit Your Code this year. September 25th and 26th. I know someone committed to it, but I don't know if they kept it on the radar. So I don't know. But theoretically, there are some people on the stage that will be coming for Commit Your Code. I don't know if everyone is, but if they are, more than happy to have them on stage. We just got to know. And yeah, Sergey actually spoke. I saw someone mention in the chat earlier. Sergey spoke at the last Commit Your Code too. Can I have a fruit stand in CYC? Can I have more budget to do it all? Because if so, then yes. That is where it all comes down to, budget. Like someone said on one of the meetup feedbacks, can we get salads for everybody? And I was like, we got salad money? I don't know if we do. But yes. Outside of that, I think this is a natural point to wrap up. We barely have egg money, honestly, though. All right. Question here, Josh, do you have a course? I know you have a book, right? But do you have a course?
Just go to my YouTube, man. It's good. youtube.com/@coffee software. And there's a whole 2-hour end-to-end and Spring and all that stuff there.
Heck yeah.
Whole thing on AI and MCP. It's not a great. It's a hey, Danny, you should come on the channel. Then it would be like decent, like it would be. Look, I've trained my audience to expect nothing, and I have delivered, right? But
what are you talking about?
This new year, I could maybe level up a little bit.
No, man,
yeah.
you're at least to me, you're definitely one of the juggernauts. They're asking again, what is the channel name? Let me pull it up on YouTube.
youtube.com/@coffee software. Your chat is amazing, by the way. I have to second. There you go. It's not. I run this with my friend Deshaun. It's a small little channel. It's gonna be big one day. You just watch. There's gonna be.
Oh, there it is.
Whatever. When Danny comes, you can.
Okay.
Yeah. That'll be good.
But the channel, really good. A lot of good value in there. Tons of good videos. Highly, highly, highly recommend. And thank you. Honestly, I'm very proud of this community. I'm proud of everything that we've done so far. I'm proud of how active people are at helping others. And honestly, that's what it's really coming down to and all about. I'll be honest. I'm very grateful that we've been able to foster the kind of community that we have. And honestly, we've had some really amazing success stories. Last 5 days alone, I've got 12. They got a job post, but I only put out 2 so far. I got 10 more that are going out over the next several days. So we're getting folks jobs, and the thing is, they get there and they thrive, and so then it opens the door up for other people. So I think that's fantastic. All right, y'all. It's been real. It's been fun. I'm beyond late at this point. We will see y'all on the next one. Next code review is next Saturday, theoretically at 4 p.m. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we have a VP of a tech company joining us for that one, where they're going to code review one of the projects with us. I don't know which project we're going to be doing next, so we may have to go to the wheel that everybody loves, to see who is the next team that will be reviewed. All right, y'all. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
And
Nice to meet you,
Sergey,
Sergey. You're
Josh, thank you. Seriously.
Thank you, guys.
Whew. That was a long one. That was such a good one. So much good stuff there.